If you've been with us, you know we're walking through the book of 1 Peter verse by verse, so I want to invite you to turn there. If you don't have a Bible, we have one near you. I want to encourage you to grab that, and you can turn to page 1214 is where we're going to be this morning. And just the time I have with you, I want to walk through these verses together, verse by verse. And so again, grateful that you're with us this morning, but let's get into the text. 1 Peter chapter 4, beginning at verse 8. Above all, keep fervent in your love for one another, because love covers a multitude of sins. Be hospitable to one another without complaint. As each one has received a special gift, employ it in serving one another as good stewards of the manifold grace of God. Whoever speaks is to do so as one who is speaking the utterances of God, and whoever serves is to do so as one who is serving by the strength which God supplies, so that in all things God may be glorified through Jesus Christ, to whom belongs the glory and dominion forever and ever. Amen. In this text, Peter, like Paul has done, and like Jesus has done, he places weight on loving one another. Jesus said that the world will know that we are his disciples by the love that you and I have for one another. This text mentions hospitality, and it mentions service to one another. Imagine a hospitality without love. Imagine a service without love. You see, love puts life in all other actions. How many of you remember the classic film, The Wizard of Oz? Okay, one of the things that made this movie iconic was the scene when it goes from black and white to Technicolor, and I want to show it to you this morning. That scene illustrates to me the difference that Christ-like love makes when it shows up. You see, that this love is to other actions what Technicolor is to television and movies. It brings life. And Peter says, above all, keep fervent in your love. This love is a love, it seeks the good of one another. It assumes the best of one another. And he says, keep fervent. I love this word, fervent. It's a word that describes words that means to stretch. To stretch. Now, sometimes the love that I show reflects like a hard ring that doesn't give, doesn't move. It's kind of stationary, if you will. But Peter says this kind of love is a love that stretches. It's stretchy love, if you will. Some of you thought of Nacho Libre and his stretchy pants. But this is the kind of love that you and I are to show to one another. And I need this kind of love, right? I mean, I need you to love me this way. We need a love that stretches, that goes the extra mile, if you will. I like to think of this as stretchy Christianity. That we're to stretch for one another, in our love for one another. And I'm so tempted to fire this off at the audience. Is that okay? Can I do that? Now, if you get hurt, our insurance is not going to cover you, all right? So there you go. So stretchy Christianity, if you will. And this kind of love is needed, verse 8, because love covers a multitude of sins. A multitude of sins. Now, I want to be clear, only Jesus can forgive our sins. He's the one who paid the price. But we are called to forgive, and forgive. This is that kind of love. We've seen this love in Jesus. In Ephesians chapter 3, the Apostle Paul writes this about this love, and that you being rooted and grounded in love may be able to comprehend with all the saints what is the breadth and the length and the height and the depth, and to know the love of Christ. You and I, rooted and grounded in the love of Christ, stretches our love for one another. You and I love each other because He loved us first. Now, some of you may be sitting here and you may not have this kind of love because you're rooted and grounded in good works. And so maybe the call for you this morning is to receive this love of Jesus. Because it's only when we're rooted and grounded in this love that we can stretch in our love for one another. And Peter's going to show us what stretchy Christianity looks like in this next verse. In verse 9, be hospitable to one another. Be hospitable to one another. Now, during Peter's time, there were no hotels and motels like today. Instead, there was hospitality. People opening up their homes and people opening up their hearts, especially to those in need. But hospitality during the time that Peter's writing was a time for people to partner with the spreading of the gospel. We read this in Paul's missionary journeys, and I want you to see one example of that in John's third letter, verse 5. Beloved, you are acting faithfully in whatever you accomplish for the brethren, and especially when they are strangers, and they have testified to your love before the church. You will do well to send them on their way in a manner worthy of God. For they went out for the sake of the name, speaking of Jesus, accepting nothing from Gentiles. Therefore, we ought to support such men. Why? Why do we show hospitality? So that we may be fellow workers with the truth. Hospitality was necessary for the spreading of the gospel. And so that's then. How about now? What does hospitality look like today? Now, I could stand here and maybe give some examples and share a story or two, but I think it would be really valuable for you to help me out, if you will. Now, the first service did great, so I'm just going to tell you that, all right? So my expectations are high, but I'm looking for two people. I'm looking for two people in here who will have the courage just to maybe stand up where you are and just share briefly one example of how Trinity Bible Church has shown hospitality to you. And so I'm looking for somebody maybe over here, and I'm looking for somebody maybe over here, or in the middle, just a couple of people. And the longer you make me stand up here without helping me, it makes me feel awkward. Yes, would you please, just briefly. All right.
It just brought such a relief for our family to be able to come here every weekend. It made us feel settled in our new lives. My kids
Yeah.
a couple months ago. And so
That's great.
I absolutely love what Trinity Bible Church has given to us as a foundation, I guess, in the area.
Wow. So moved here. Yeah, praise the Lord. If you didn't hear her testimony, they're fairly new to the community, and the church just covered them with hospitality. How about one more? Somebody over here. I know you have to have a little bit of courage, but we'll wait. We'll just wait. Thank you. All right. Thank you, brother.
I am simply overwhelmed by the generosity, the goodness, the compassion of this church community, especially the past week.
Yeah. So, thank you, brother. Appreciate that. Our brother, yeah. Our brother was in the hospital this week, and our folks ministered to him in a variety of ways. So, thank you for sharing. So, that's how you have practiced hospitality today. And notice, so it's be hospitable without complaint. Without complaint. I know sometimes I find myself practicing hospitality, but kind of maybe with this kind of catch in my spirit. Maybe I'm trying to also push against it at the same time. But he says, be hospitable without complaint. So how do we do that? Well, I think we find motivation in Jesus. In Romans chapter 15, verse 7, Paul says this, therefore, accept one another, just as Christ also accepted us to the glory of God. Aren't you glad Jesus accepted us without complaint, just as we were? And so let us be hospitable without complaint. And now Peter's going to give us another example of stretchy Christianity and what that looks like in verse 10. He says, as each one has received a gift. This is what we call a spiritual gift. Every Christian's been given at least one spiritual gift. And you can find the list of these gifts in Romans and 1 Corinthians and in Ephesians. You can find these and you can look through these yourselves. But I want you to see what I noticed this week in this passage. In this passage, more is said about employing the gift than discovering the gift. Read with me, verse 10. As each one has received a special gift, employ it in serving one another as good stewards of the manifold grace of God. Whoever speaks is to do so as one who is speaking the utterances of God. Whoever serves is to do so as one who is serving by the strength which God supplies. That spiritual gifts are for the purpose of serving others. That's the purpose, and that purpose often gets lost with our over-exaggerated emphasis of the individual discovering and finding their gift. We get so caught up in the discovery that we never employ the gift. One author, I've put it in my notes to read to you, he writes this. Christians eagerly discuss spiritual gifts in a way that would surely distress the apostle. Their concern is not how they can serve others and bring glory to God. Rather, they seek self-fulfillment. They want to discover their gifts so as to establish their own identity. In a Christian context, they want to do their own thing. The gifts are granted for service is lost from sight. You see, in our culture, with the emphasis so much on the individual, with so much emphasis on discovering, there's this temptation to make the gifts more about self than service. But Jesus himself said in Mark 10:45, for even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. You know, it says we were to be good stewards of these gifts, of this grace of God. We're to be good stewards. You know, one of the last teachings that we have that Jesus taught, Peter was there. And it's a story that Jesus tells. It's a parable of a master going on a journey. And the master gets his servants together. And to one servant, he gives 5 talents. And to a second, he gives 2 talents. And to a third, he gives 1 talent. And he entrusts them with his talents. And then he leaves. Now, the one who was given 5 ended up gaining 5 more. And the one who was given 2 ended up gaining 2 more. And the master comes back and says, "Well done, faithful servant." But the one that was given 1 talent, it said he was so afraid that he dug a hole and he hid his talent. You see, he was a hoarder, not a steward. And I think many Christians, we're hoarding the gift that God has given us because we're afraid. What if I mess up? What if I don't know what to say? And so because of our fear, we dig a hole and we hide the talent, the gift that God has given us. And it says when the master came back to that servant, it says he took away the talent and he gave it to another servant. And it said he sent him away. See, if we don't use, employ, and exercise the gift that God has given us, we lose it. And so let us not get so caught up in trying to discover that we forget to just serve. Because we will lose it if we don't use it. And so Peter's going to talk about spiritual gifts in 2 categories. He's going to say, whoever speaks, that's preaching, teaching, evangelism, and singing, is to do so as one who is speaking the utterances of God, the one who's speaking the word of God. And whoever serves. So you have speaking and you have serving. Whoever serves is to do so as one who is serving by the strength which God supplies. So whether you are speaking, whether you are serving, both categories of gifts are dependent on God and they both point to God. It's God who supplies. This weekend I had an opportunity to go to a musical where lots of our kids were involved. You had some of our kids, elementary age kids and junior high kids and high school kids. Some were dancing and some were singing and some were acting and some were putting up props and they all played a role. But there was a director behind them, supplying them with what was needed to do their role, to play their part. And in the same way, you and I have been gifted with gifts and talents and strengths. And God is the one who's made it possible and has given us what is necessary to operate in that gift. And why? Why? There's ultimately one reason. One reason, and he says this. So that in all things, that's all things. In all things, God may be glorified through Jesus Christ, to whom belongs the glory and the dominion forever and ever. Amen. You see, a love, a hospitality and service that glorifies God the Father, is a love, a hospitality and service that reflects the love and hospitality and service of Jesus.